Some people want to say to themselves, that person really makes me tired. It appears nice on the outside, but when you're with that person, you get tired and irritating. We can't let these people everywhere ruin our lives. You can't avoid it entirely, but there are ways to spend less time with them by learning about their psychology and behavioral patterns. Today, we'll look at 5 types of people who pretend to be good but will destroy you. Start now. 1. A highly sensitive individual with a cloudy mentality. Some people are sensitive to every word they hear, even when they are speaking. Even things that people may dismiss as not a big deal. Why is that? Become a serious incident to those individuals. Because they are delicate. These people are frequently irritable. When something good happens, they tend to get excited quickly, and when something bad happens, they tend to sink indefinitely. If you dismiss this type by saying, I think it's because I've been thinking and worrying about a lot of things, you may find yourself in an unwelcome situation. For example, if the person in charge of a business partner is of this type, the repulsion caused by one's own misunderstanding may develop into an aggressive emotion and cut off the transaction. Also, in a situation where there is a lack of manpower due to an influx of customers at a specific store, when the manager said to an employee lightly, "You are very busy right now, so try diligently." Accept it, and it may even spread to absurd situations, such as unexpected tears or thinking it is bullying. The same is true of romantic relationships. When a very sensitive type of lover calls them to move the meeting to next week because of circumstances, they say, "Okay. Let's make an appointment again." But in their heart, "What? Are you fed up with me? What did I do wrong?" They get depressed and struggling. This is related to resilience. Resilience is the ability to adapt without being hurt, even in difficult situations, and to quickly stand up again even if temporary symptoms of depression are present. However, it is said that the people we are now looking at have a relatively low level of resilience. People who are close to this type of person must always encourage and comfort them in order to keep them from feeling down. 2. Aggressive, a person who is competitive in all aspects of life. People who are competitive in everything they do exist. It's because they regard the world as a zero-sum game. When you see a colleague procrastinating from work while also working hard and ask, "Can I help you?" A person with a strong competitive spirit sees it as a challenge rather than kindness. As a result, the simple courtesy of "Can I help you?" is interpreted as showing off how good you are at your job or looking down on me for finishing your job first, and you feel a sense of competition. People who live in the world of the heart and the world of interpreted meaning do not live in the real world, but in the inner reality of how to accept facts. When a colleague does a good job, this type is jealous rather than praised, says it's not a big deal, or burns with a competitive spirit, tries to change the subject with his own story, and pretends to be proud. We are unable to rejoice in the success of others because we see everything through a win or lose lens. It's because they believe that if others win, they lose, and congratulating others is equivalent to admitting defeat. The problem extends beyond simple jealousy or rivalry to an unwillingness to accept other people's opinions. Accepting someone else's point of view is seen as a defeat for oneself. Accepting someone's opinion is recognized as their own opinion is not accepted, and they accept it as a defeat, acting aggressively at the meeting. This type of look is exhausting for those around you. 3. An individual with an egocentric mindset. There are some people who casually and naturally ruin the atmosphere all at once. For instance, you know what? This time, the annual salary of managers in their 40s is being drastically reduced. Will. The other employees then pretend they didn't hear you, but deep down they want you to stop talking. Because he is so careless, there is bound to be one person everywhere who causes problems for those around him. He surprises the people around him by casually saying things that might make you think, "Isn't it a little weird to say this in front of this person?" People like this hurt without thought, and they say things calmly that make difficult people even more difficult. As a result, these people frequently embarrass and irritate those around them. According to cultural anthropologist Edward Hall, there are low-context and high-context cultures for communication. A low-context culture is one in which there is no shared cultural context among people and communication must be expressed clearly in language. Clearly, verbal communication is a feature of low-context cultures such as those found in Europe and the United States. A high-context culture, on the other hand, is one in which people share a common cultural context and communicate without having to express it verbally. Communication that is not clearly expressed in words characterizes a highly contextual culture. Because of high empathy, it is possible to communicate by procrastinating and grasping even things that cannot be expressed verbally, such as indirectly speaking, implicit understanding, and understanding the atmosphere. However, among today's generation, who are unable to adapt to that high context, an increasing number of people think self-centeredly and annoy those around them. It's because you don't notice or understand the atmosphere. This insensitivity is not only an annoyance to those around you, but it is also very tiring when bumped into, no matter how innocent it is. 4. Someone who believes that only what they say is correct. In light of one's own sense of justice, some people attack by saying, "I can't forgive," if an incident is judged to be wrong. When these people see a firefighter driving a fire truck into a restaurant parking lot and eating in full uniform, they can't help but lash out. "I can't understand eating while on duty," he thinks, or "I can't stand using a fire truck for personal use," he says. It is a careless act of judging and criticizing everything based solely on one's own standards of what one can see and what one cannot see. They never consider the plight of a firefighter who is so pressed for time that he cannot even change his clothes. When this type is present in the workplace, it is extremely exhausting. This is because, regardless of the proposals presented at the meeting, they are fueled by their own twisted sense of justice and disregard the ideas of others. These people usually live with a negative attitude. To begin with, most people who begin their sentences with "no" are like that. Well, that is not the case. Or "no, that is nonsense." Even if they disagree with their own opinions, ordinary people will try to understand the other person's point of view. However, because they can't get out of their own head, they have no idea what it's like from the other person's perspective. It fails to consider the fact that different points of view and principles exist, and instead concludes that the opposing party is incorrect. They have a narcissistic belief that they are apostles of justice. Social justice warrior is a term used in Europe and America. They mistakenly believe that they are absolutely correct and that they are on the side of justice, but when viewed objectively from a third person's perspective, they are simply people united by prejudice. They appear to be people who have lost their cool because they don't want to hear other people's opinions. On the surface, it appears nice and righteous, but if you get involved with someone like this, you will eventually tire of them. 5. People who don't understand what they're saying. There are people who are long-winded and pointless in conversation, making it difficult to listen. I'm the type who lets the words "so, what do you want to say?" flow naturally. The story is unnecessary with this type because it is so detailed. So there will undoubtedly be a lot of talking, and it will be lengthy. These people will go into minute detail to provide an accurate explanation, but the opposite of what they intend is to be overly verbose in order to get their point across. Even now, being in the company is extremely difficult. When this person begins to speak in a meeting, an atmosphere of resignation is created, and people do other things. They are verbose because they are having difficulty choosing. As a result, summarizing is difficult. People like this are described as having a "can't see the forest for the trees" mentality. People who are good at talking remove unnecessary stories and explain with easy to understand examples or tell only the key points, but this type of person finds it difficult to choose and cannot discard even unimportant parts. Today, we looked at 5 different types of people who make you tired when you meet them. I need to know if there is a way to avoid these people and save my life without provoking them. If you understand and deal with these people's psychology, you will be able to make your relationships much softer and more tolerant, and your day and life will not be ruined. If you found this video useful, please subscribe and like it. I will return with a more entertaining and informative video. Thank you very much.